Hey guys, it's Holden Rise. Well, it's Holden Rise weird, and we gotta finish up the M.A.X training missions. At least the next couple of videos, I'll probably split it up into 3 per each, or depending on how quick they go through this time. Let's full screen this. Let me change that. Alright, so on my left, I think we left off. We finished up upgrade your tanks, I think. From 7, 8, or 9. And then, so now we're going to victory points and some of the other probably cooler aspects of the game, because we still have a couple basic things right here. Oops. A couple of basic things right here. This is probably one of my favorite upgrading aspects of the whole game, is just doing research. And then you got mines, the Infiltrator, and the victory points we're going to start with. So normally how you win this game is you have things called, you build buildings called ecospheres. And the whole point is to leave them running as long as possible to achieve more points that it generates per turn. You know, like one turn you get 1 ecosphere point. And I'll show you by going here, because you can check your reports button that's usually below your unit portrait. Should be right here in the middle. So this, and you can go to score. And this is generally how you can view how much how much points you have. At least everyone, because you click on a single ecosphere, and usually I believe will show you how much is generated. Because usually I just, to be honest, most of the time playing custom games and just putting the max turns and having fight to the death basically. But just gonna put the connectors up here. So do I have a habitat? Alright, so I'm gonna make something really quick here. For when it comes to training halls, ecospheres, and research centers, you can see here it needs to use obviously power, but it needs a colonist. This is what this icon is. And this one can produce 3 of them. As it says in the description, it houses colonists. Each habitat houses enough colonists to operate 3 research centers, training halls, or ecospheres. Colonist buildings must be connected to the habitat before they can operate. So every 3 ecospheres you would need a habitat. So usually as you get later into a game, if it goes that long, don't be surprised if you have like 10, 12 habitats or something like that for all your research centers, ecospheres and training halls. So habitats are really important for, I guess, specialized specialized research and victory conditions in the infantry. So I'm going to build one of the habitats because we need it, because it says we have to get a point. So I'm going to need to build a habitat so I can power the, or actually get the people to house the ecosphere so it can give me a point. Because you can have power for it, but if you don't have the habitat connected to it, it won't matter. I'm just going to rush this for the purposes of the tutorial. I'm just going to build the tanks up around here. At least it's not a total disaster. I can always just build it right there. So I guess just building defense. That one could have fired on it, but instead this one fired. Oh. Alright. So up there really quick was an assault gun. There's sort of like a cross in between the, not a cross, but like a midway between the tanks for range and rocket launcher 7. because they're sort of like a mid-range, like a lightly armored mid-range bland combat unit, if you want to put it that way. I think it's the best way to put it. And normally their range can match basic gun turrets. We'll put scan up, so if it does come in range, if it tries to shoot the gun turret will shoot back. I'm just gonna build a radar here actually. Usually if you can, getting a radar up and early is actually pretty nice. Mostly just because of if any scouts try to come near you, you don't have to have, you know, like a scout or a scanner in one spot to cover your base. You can kind of have just one building just cover all of the, you know, have the scan over your whole base, and that way you can put scouts and scanners on like the outside of the radar range, so you can extend your sight to make sure no one's trying to sneak up on you. So do I have? Oh, I need to build power. Let's actually stick it right there. Put it right there. It's like trying to go on the outside, where it's a little easier to hit the vehicle plant. Alright, it's got no shots. Yeah, here we go. So that's a base assault gun. Yeah, because the upgraded ones, the Sacred 8s have an upgraded version of an assault gun. It's funny how they don't go over clans in the tutorial. So that's pretty much how you usually have a clan, so you get some bonus. It's kind of like I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of some other game where you pick a faction or something like that, and it gives you units like base bonuses. Like I feel like you should be able to name a game right off, but I'm so good with scout down there. Turn on colors here. It's easier to spot for you guys. Kind of me, because this game is a weird feeling to cause eye strain sometimes. Alright, so I guess I'll introduce you units as they come. So I just did assault gun. You've seen the tank and scout enough. Scouts are fast speed, small range, you know, kind of dart around, spot weaknesses. Scouts kind of become irrelevant the later the game goes on, because usually at that point people have more units, they have more defenses. Scouts can't really do their job anymore without dying in 1 or 2 hits. Yeah. So this is the scanner I was just talking about earlier. In fact, the description is the best thing about it is mobile radar platform. Because radars have a base scan of 18, this one has 14 you can move. So these are usually really, yeah, so targets for like units like missile crawlers, missile cruisers, pretty much anything that has range bigger than its scan. So usually you can bring these on assaults, or if it has enough increased range, you can put it on like a water or have it just outside of someone's base, and you can or have it in like a desolate spot, so if it gets destroyed, someone's onto it, or someone's coming from that direction, or has a defense up in that area. So at this point they can see that. And you can see the circle kind of go around. Scans are usually thin yellow lines that operate in a circle. Range is red. Anti-aircraft range is orange to indicate that it can only shoot, you know, anti-aircraft. So I have scouts, and that's gonna take 3 shots. Got more tanks. Oh, forgot. I think I mentioned the shift clicked at one point. Yeah, try to use that. Alright, that's going off to the side. They're just gonna, I'm not sure what they're gonna do. Looks like we have one over here. Scout is trying to. Alright, I think that's the new one. Yep, that is the new one. Scanner left range. Alright, this one's close enough that I should be able to move in safely. Yeah, sometimes you'll get it when it says tag unit out of range, because they'll just move in and out of range. Actually, I only need one extra one. Oh yeah, so another fun thing I wanted to mention is that habitats don't need power. So you don't have to worry about getting like a power station to, you know, improve, alright, there's a scout over there. Let's put that tank right there. Try to block it off a little. Alright, they're not moving their tanks, they're protecting their front line. Alright, one more turn for the ecosphere. Looks like the assault gun returned to fire. Another fun thing I like about this game is that if something gets destroyed, it'll tell you exactly where it got destroyed at, so you can check that coordinate. I believe you do hit F1, no, actually it goes back to the last unit, or last alert. Then you can see it right here. So let's move this over. Actually, move that one over here. Move that one over here. I'm just gonna toss a depot over here. Alright, it's powered on. Yep, so right here it says total. That will indicate how many points it's generated for you. And then right click on right here. Excuse me. Yeah, the first bit's more of some, like, you know, just kind of describe what it looks like, but right here is where it's definitely the more important part of the description. At every turn an ecosphere operates, it increases your colony rating, which is the score. And yeah, if it's destroyed, you lose all improvements the ecosphere made to your rating. So even if it generated something crazy, like 200 points per one ecosphere, and then it got destroyed, you lose 200 points. So you want to make sure if you can build an ecosphere, you want to protect it. You don't just want to leave it out in the open. Yeah. I think that's gonna destroy because I left it there. Yeah, it's gonna get destroyed. Yep, so right here when you generate this one point, it'll kind of give you a line graph that indicates over time where you started from and where you're going. Usually you know if an ecosystem's been destroyed because you see a nice drop in the graph. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Let's actually just build an extra turret right here. Yeah, where's my tanks? Put this one up. I don't have that depot up yet, so I'm gonna have to sort of set it in the back. Just throw these scouts up here to deal with it. If it wants to shoot, it's going to have to use up its points. That way I can catch up to it. So that's why I'm stacking them right here, because I know there's nothing else out here. Kind of got it pinned in a little corner. Maybe if I throw a scout at it, it'll hold still and I can take it out. Because this is kind of a standoff up here. You got a scout just wandering out here. I'm gonna get this scout. Just really mention something quick about scouts. Usually when if you have, I think it's in a custom, like a custom game or a hot seat game, where you have gold to upgrade. You will in most cases, but I felt like a good upgrade to get is one where you can just increase your scouts hit points by 2, because it takes a third shot on for like just scout on scout fighting. So generally, if you have the small advantage, you can turn into a bigger one. But I'll cover that more when I get to upgrading. I think it's funny. Right here, it shows the eye with the, you know, the kind of like the lines across the top and the bottom, but in the setup screen it doesn't. I've seen a game use 2 fonts like that. Actually, I have, but alright. Probably one of my favorite units in the game, the Infiltrator. It's a infantry that you can get out of a training hall. It's usually invisible until you, I think, shoot or mess up a disable or a steal. And I guess in these descriptions they go over it, but I don't want to spend half this time reading here. Just had an idea what's kind of like to do that now. Let's go into Infiltrator. I don't know if it's gonna give me a training hall. I haven't done this in forever. Okay. Yeah, I don't know why we have 3 ecospheres right now. I mean, this habitat hasn't grown beyond this. Like, this turret is still here, I'm pretty sure. We got power station. Okay, I don't know why the tutorial did this before I go on to victory points. Try not to put your power where everyone can shoot at it. This is. I gotta know there's a couple turrets here, but if someone can outrange those turrets or have enough firepower to sweep them out, and they'll control roughly this area of the map or part of your base, this is gonna be gone, and you're probably gonna have a few factories and spawning stations that are that won't get power because you don't have enough power to allocate. Usually, if you do have your power station close to the coast or even on an island or on like an artificial island, you want to make sure you're actually protecting it, or you know, have it protected enough to where you don't need to have a unit around it, or you know, just. I feel like someone can just rush up here and take this out. It's a little unnerving. Just space these out here. Alright, so I gotta stop one of these and train an Infiltrator. So normally by default, Infiltrators take 9 turns. As you go further down, the only way you can reduce the cost is by research through research centers, by researching a topic called cost. So I'm actually just gonna put gun turrets up here. Stick the radar in here. Yeah, let's put that there. At this point, we're really just waiting for the Infiltrator. So we just gotta get enough units and gun turrets to protect ourselves. Alright, so this is 3062. Yeah, you see down at the bottom part of the screen right here is where I'm kind of flashing it. Is where you can see what coordinate you're hovering over right now. Let me see there. And then right next to it, if you're hovering, something tells you what the mark is, which is how often it's been upgraded. Usually Mark 1 indicates like your first version. You know, so if you put like a to upgrade before the game starts, it'll still say Mark 1, but it'll have like a little, you know, +2 hit points or something. Like I'm using for that scout example. Alright, so I got more assault guns. Got an idea actually. And they built the ecosphere on top of the mining station spot. Starting to trust this game's custom pre-made bases here. Because now I can get that gold if I wanted it. Well, I could, but I had to destroy the ecosphere, get a bulldozer, bulldoze that area, so clear the debris from it. Then I can put a mining station down. But I'm not sure. Alright, so they did move the assault gun away. Is that radar coming along? Oop, I want to arm it. I guess I go over that real quick. So pretty much on any building, turret, structure, anything, you know, it's not a unit. You can go into, you can click on it and there'll be a button that'll say remove. You click on that and you can kind of see how it works in a way. So there's glass in front of this button. You hit arm and then it takes away the glass, and then if you really want to go for it, like I said, with, you know, if you put a building on something, a mining spot, and you need to get a mining station down, you'd click on this to destroy it. I'm not getting much from down here. If I got gun turrets spawning up down here to, you know, kind of cover this side, so I won't have to worry about it as much. That's why I'm gonna have most of my stuff come up here. Oh, they've got a repair unit. So repair units are kind of simple. Their job is to repair things. It's other than depots for land units, hangars for air units, and docks for naval units. Repair units are the only other way you could repair something. Well, other than I think turrets, which you can, if they're connected to raw material, they'll kind of, I believe, repair themselves over time if I remember correctly. And there's one way to test that out. So let's see if that fixes itself later. Looks like they're pushing tanks up on this spot, so okay, let's can't reach it. If it moves closer, I'll be able to though. Yeah, about that in a terrible spot. Yeah, because that barely reaches up here, but it tells me what's going on down here. Good. Alright, so I'm gonna kind of get up here and get that radar going. The Infiltrator still has 4 turns to go, so we're still pretty much holding out and waiting on that. I think it's just this part of the video will just be longer just because gotta wait for the Infiltrator to be built. radar built. Alright, so this tank's moved close enough, so I'm actually gonna just open fire on it with all my scouts, which won't do much, but better than nothing. Just gonna set them all over here, so that's going to move. Let's see, wait, 10 armor. So every scout does 2 damage to the tank. Yep, see, like that. So right here, that's only so right there, because the part of the circle is just half past the unit or structure it's over, it can fire on it. Well, usually as long as that center part of the line hits it, so even like part of the building, it looks like it only covers a quarter of it. Usually you can still fire on the building because you still have a part you can target. So it doesn't have to be like completely halfway. It just has to be enough to I think it covers the part where you can click it. Alright, so they've got tanks and everything behind that, so I really can't do that. Alright, so yeah, let me take that off actually. So this button right here is like kind of like a scan, and I don't know the exact name of it is. It's just a lock button. Yeah, lock button shows you the range and scan circles of all selected enemy units. This is kind of a good way to like see what like you don't have to keep clicking on the enemy to compare what where you click on and off it. What I like usually using it for, since I see enemy defenses or scan units or radars, I will click that button to kind of save what they can see and what they can hit, so I know where to move and where to avoid them. So that's what I use that for. I'm gonna push back just one. Yeah, that's right. Alright. Yeah. Alright, it's got 2 hits, so it can off my scouts. Whoops, I forgot if I want to click somewhere, just I got a shift click and not regular click. There. I'm gonna send a tank up there so it can just soak up the fire so I can kill it. There. I'm actually gonna build more storage units here, filling up frequently. So as far as I know, pretty much the easiest thing in the game to disable or steal with an infiltrator is usually a scout, because your bar, even at like rookie level for the infiltrator, it'll almost the bar for which tells you your chance of stealing it is roughly above half, and I'll show you how this comes out. So I gotta find a spot to deploy it. Let's go this way actually. Yep. Yep, they're normally invisible until they make a mistake trying to capture enemy units or disable them or a building. Although sometimes, usually I think sometimes it definitely when stealing. Sometimes you can just mess up with disable, and I think you can still get spotted sometimes too when you try to disable like a gun turret or an anti-aircraft gun or a radar. Because what I like doing in Infiltrator sometimes, if I can sneak them into someone's base successfully, what I like doing is I just go around and disable everything. At that point, they pretty much know you're doing it, but you can still like stop mining stations for a turn or stuff like that. Disable their factories. It's really fun the stuff you can actually kind of do with it. Oh, and get alien units. I'm gonna send that up there. I have it set their build order set on repeat, so that way I keep getting infiltrators. Because infiltrators only cost 1 raw material a turn, but you can't speed up the process. Because if you could, I feel like that'd be too powerful from a balance perspective. Just because you could, just kind of flood the battlefield and just take everyone's things without any repercussion. Or you just have so much that you could just kind of cut them off. I'm not sure I'm going for the broken tank here. I think I'm just doing that just to show you how this works. Because that thing's only got 2 hits. Or no, I think it's 4 HP. Yeah, 4 HP. There. 2 radars, I can see everything. So I'm thinking about just actually, taking it over there. That's going to be another 3 turns roughly. At this point, I think my defenses are hardened enough to where they're holding off, where they're trying to build up a ton of forces before they charge in. Because they have 2 scanners now on both sides. And the best I've got is a ton of tanks. I'm just gonna get like artillery or something instead of just gun turrets. Something new. Alright. So for infiltrators to, do what they need to, they have to be standing adjacent to the building or structure they want to disable or steal. They don't have like a disable or steal range, because that'd be fun to balance in this game. So, a couple things I want to point out first before I do this. I would not bother with its gun. It's probably can only really do damage to mines and infantry. And then even if you do that, you're telling people that you have infiltrators. And generally you want to kind of hide that so they're not, suddenly going putting mines everywhere, getting tons of infantry to patrol their base, so you can't do any disable or stealing with your infiltrators. Or they'll bring infantry with them on their forces to protect them from infiltrators kind of walking up and disabling something. Yeah, the pistol's pretty much worthless. It barely does anything. Look at that. 1 damage. But a couple other things. If you have at least 1 speed and there is room for it to move, the infiltrator can move out of the way of the vehicle. So if like a vehicle is coming toward it, it can move out of the way. Because if you have no speed, the vehicle will kind of bump into it and pretty much reveal it, and then it'll get shot and get killed. Although sometimes if it doesn't have a shot in it, you might be able to actually disable it or steal it, kind of save the infiltrator. Because the only other stealth unit in the game is the submarine, and I don't believe it can move out of the way because it's a submarine. But that's kind of like the same thing, or if you pretty much find the submarine, you kind of bump into it. Although usually the submarine's underwater, so usually sometimes you can actually have a unit, I don't remember if you use submarines a bit, but I'm not sure about like moving over it. I don't think I've done that enough. So I'm actually see disable or steal. Oh, disable or capture. So I can capture it. I can give it a shot. I've only got roughly a 30-40% chance there. Stealing is marked by a hand icon, and then disable is marked by a kind of crudely drawn disable gear. So I'm gonna like roughly 90% chance to disable, so I'm gonna disable. It can only disable or stealing will use its shot. See, so I'm down to 0 and disabled for 1 turn. And over here, if you notice, the rank went up. The higher the rank, as far as I know, it makes it easier. There's less failure chance to disable or steal. It'll disable something for longer. So usually instead of 1 turn, if you get better at disabling, it'll disable for 2 turns. 3. Usually disabling buildings will just be 1 turn. Although, assuming if you get your infiltrator high enough, you can actually start disabling stuff for more than 1 turn. So, and I forgot also mention something too. Usually the best way to steal something is to disable it so it can't fight back. Because if you just steal it and you mess up, usually you get shot and your infiltrator dies. And that's usually 9 turns, or 7 if you've got cost researched enough. So it's a little bit of lost time. So you should disable it first before you steal it. Or else someone will steal his heart. And, you'd be dead. So I just did disable that tank. Yeah, you can also kind of see it moved. Usually disabling it disables it for your turn, for the most part. It's not like if you had 4 players and you disabled something for 4 turns, that, each player's turn would take up 1 turn. It's usually for like a whole... gosh, this shit, I'm not sure what's going with that, but... yeah, as you can see right here, there's an infiltrator. I'm assuming he's the commander or something. And you got a bunch of other infiltrators with their crumbly pistols that don't do anything. Or they're not really... I'm assuming it's self-defense, but it does anything. But yeah, infiltrators are really fun if you get to use them. And when you get to use them, you know how to use them pretty well. Alright, so mines. There are 2 types of mine layers. There's there's a land version of the mine layer, and there's a sea version of it. So let's go to Texas and destroy some mines. I think I've played this one before. If I remember correctly, there's one down, set it down here, and there's... oh, come on. Still no constructors. Alright. So yeah, there's 2, as far as I know, there's a few ways you can spot mines. Have a surveyor be adjacent to it, have the infiltrator be adjacent to it. I think submarines can? I don't know, I think corvettes can too. Because corvettes can spot submarines. No, not a corvette is in the car, it's like a sea unit. We'll try to send this down with it. I'm assuming they're down there. If they're not, that's actually surprising. But it is in the same attack pattern. Like, there's what, 3 scouts first. I shot 2 of them down with the gun turrets. Because they're on automatic. Kind of automatic sentry. Alright, so here's some magic right here. They are moving up, so I'm going to bring this back. I don't want to get killed. I'll actually send both engineers and build both the radars first. Get that one up there. So I'm going to... yeah, even stealing a scout has roughly a 50% chance with a base unit. So I'm just going to disable it first, and then I'll steal it. Yeah, usually more basic units. I don't want to say structures. Structures, even like a gun turret, it's still disabled for 1 turn. With a rookie unit. So, usually the more basic, or I guess like if it's a non-combat unit or a fairly basic combat unit like a scout, I don't say a tank, but maybe like a... usually it's just a scout, because scouts gives like a light vehicle. Or at least that's how it's classified. Now there's an assault gun. But, yeah, scouts are by far the easiest to... scouts to kind of run up, take them down. Actually gonna push up a little bit here. And usually, normally with two radars overlapping, it's not actually the greatest idea to have radars too close to each other, because you're kind of, you know, they're not getting scanned like the maximum, or like the not maximum amount of scan, but optimal amount of scan. Because, you know, they're pretty much overlapping each other so much that they're pretty much seeing the same thing, and you could have the same, you know, pretty much the same, almost the same effect with just one. So it'd be a waste of raw material. Alright, so yep, so see right here, you can see a slight increase in the steel. See if I can zoom in on it. The icon's still the same, even though the vehicle's got bigger. Alright. So we've got a spot and destroy a mine. So this is a little harder than it looks in some cases, because you have to, you know, go find the mine in front of all these enemy units. Which is why I'll just send the infiltrator around it. Oop, grab. I don't think I covered movement that much, but I'm gonna keep an eye on this. Yeah. Feel like that. If you don't have an extra thing of speed, it can, well, die. This might take longer than I thought. In that case, we'll actually just restart that. That didn't happen. Alright. Alright. I'm trying to think of where I remember seeing the mines. Because I thought there was one up here. Let me scout out earlier and see if I can see them. Actually, yeah, we'll be able to remove this over the side and kind of go around it, and then to actually go this way with it. So yeah, material transfer, gun turret. To actually put you right there. Down there. Right there. Alright, so I already seen an assault gun. Oh, and in case you're wondering, you can't exactly hide behind a mountain to reduce something's scan ability. They'll see right over it. Oh, so they already noticed. Gotta see they need half the military here. At least this is kind of diverting them from my base, so I have more time to build. It's not really a bad thing. Just get this right here. New scout available. Alright, just gonna move out that way. Just kind of wheel my goose chase here. Send that around. I just stopped that with one boom's point left. It's gonna die again. So it looks like the scouts going up and taking their heavier units off down here. I don't believe they have any C9s in this one. Yeah, you get that a lot. They'll move in and out of range a lot, and it'll constantly ping your alerts up. I'm not surprised if you play that properly, you can like screw up a human player just because that's all you're doing. So, I'm gonna turn that off. If that moves any closer, it's gonna get nailed. Alright, so I've gotten around here. Looks like there's a mining station right here. Usually a good way to know that is if you see material on the ground, you pretty much suspect that you'll see the 16 raw material, the 14 fuel, 14 gold or whatever right next to it. Because something like this, because usually if it's a fuel on the outside, it's usually raw material or it's gold. If you see raw material on like that, I see it's raw material right here. So I guess the way I was saying is on like the outer, like usually it's like measure about 3x3 square. In a way, usually if you see this is fuel, this is raw material or gold. If that's gold, it's either usually fuel or raw material. Because usually you won't see something like 15 fuel and then another 3 fuel right here. Because that's 18 fuel in 4 squares. It's usually only a max of 16. Pretty much ever. Okay, we got something over there. My best shot for this might be to take scouts and just kind of send them off in the water. I'd have to send them around. Yeah, so it looks like they've built up in the last few minutes. Alright, they're trying to stop that. Next Infiltrator will probably get steal that scanner. I've got a radar coming. There. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. Alright, so here we go. So what is this? Place a mine anywhere and then detect and destroy one. And detect and destroy one enemy mine. Alright. So I need to stop this for a sec. So if you want to build like a land version of the mine layer, you go to the light vehicle plant. If you want the naval version of the mine layer, which is a sea mine layer, you have a shipyard. So I'm just gonna kinda crank this out. And I'll be fine. It's only one turn. Usually that early you don't want to risk that, but this is a tutorial, so don't care as much. So hold on, let me disable that. 2 turns. So I think the hardest part of the Infiltrator is definitely used to have it, being stealthy, because usually someone will notice their disabled unit. I mean, the AI might not always, but you never know, really. Here we go, mine layer. Alright, so mine layers use raw material. Like a supply truck, like an engineer, like a constructor. It stores it. Not like a factory, which requires a constant supply per turn. Which is actually kind of how constructors and engineers work anyway, because you need to have supplies and then use it per turn. But mine layers work a little different. So how they work is that you click where you want them to. They'll place a mine right directly beneath them. And then when you have place mode turned on, it'll say it's transferring. And then you kind of can click somewhere like, you know, say right here. And it'll create a line. And if you wanted to remove them, you would hit remove. And you'd hear that noise, which means it went back into the mine layer as raw material. It converts the raw material, builds mines with it, and it can also reverse that process. I guess I'll mention it later in the upgrading one. If you want to upgrade mines, you have to remove the mine and then place it back down. Alright, so now I've planted a mine. This is still disabled last I checked. So yeah, that's the only thing really the Infiltrator pistol is good for. You can destroy anything that's below 6 HP. I don't really rephrase that. 2 HP with no armor. So there's that. So I'm going to do right now is actually, I'll have those 3 missions right there. And then I'll finish the last 3 training missions for you guys. So this has been Holding Your Eyes Weird, and I'll be back soon.